So this is a project I had started the drawing up plans for a long time ago and then put it off. Uh, these always annoy me. They are so thin and flimsy. They bump around easy. This always warps, and once you do the 5 or 6 player extension, nothing wants to stay in place. Stuff gets knocked around real easy, and it was just annoying. I was wanting to do a framed board that would be a little bit better, because when these pieces are larger, so they are less likely to move and push around easy than each individual small piece. But then I decided I'll just pick up some wood, some unfinished wood tiles, make them a little bit thicker, a little bit heavier, should make everything a little bit better. And you see here I got some, this is 30 point chipboard, and it is perfectly well good enough for this job. So starting here, what I did was, you got to imagine I've got the board kind of rotated according to what you might see in the instruction manual. And these don't have to be perfect. Actually, if it has a little bit of give, that'll be good. You won't have to worry about popping out, being too tight in the board. So I measured these. These are actually, let me show you real quick, just a tiny bit smaller. You can see a little bit of blue around the edge on every side, just a little bit. So they're just a tiny bit smaller, which is not a big deal. So I measure the side here, and this is 1 3/4. So then I found the midpoint on some tiles and marked them and put them up there, and we get roughly 5 3/8. So I cut this chipboard here, you see 5 3/8. Then lay my tiles out, kind of draw around it and cut. Then for the next piece, what I did was I just put some extra tiles, say 2 high, right? Laid out the tiles the way I want it on here, or on top of the full sheet. It was a full sheet. So let me just do this real quick, it'll be easier. Remove that. Full sheet of a scrap piece I had. There we go. And then just reassemble it. Do a quick little doodle. Cut it, no problem. Then I just glued this and I just used this big stack. It's heavy enough. You can use a book. Just set it down on top of that just to let it adhere good. Let me show you some other stuff. I've just been using this glue, and it's been working great. It's working really great. So put it on the back of that and slid it around, and then got it into the position I want it, and then put the weight on it. And let me show you what I'm using for this. This is, you can see that ready board. This stuff's like $1 at my local Dollar General, and I don't want to advertise too much for a company, but this is some of the best at cutting and keeping its form of the chipboard that I mess with. And for a project like this is going to be great. Some of mine have nicks and stuff. I don't care, because at the end I may do a light brushing of blue to make it look like the sea. So we will not have to worry about that, and you could always just put a little glue or something there. So this is the start of it, and this will probably be the easy, quick part. And you can see they don't have to be perfect. Once you get the tiles on there, you can slide them around and they'll keep their place pretty well. A lot better than just these things. But I've decided if I was going to do this, use these nicer tiles, I'm going to do it kind of plain. It's not going to have, my printer is, I have trouble getting my printer to keep working. It will not work. It's so much trouble. So I print stuff off at the print store, and they won't use colored paper, and so I'm just going to do very minimalistic on this. And I decided that if I was going to do that, I might as well upgrade some of my other stuff too. So this will be a long project. This is just an intro video, but I will edit it all together, and I'll just once it's done, we'll show it. So I just kind of hacksaw jigsaw this out. Got a little mess up right there. This is roughly 3x6. I've got some off-white construction paper here. I'm going to do a grid. Got the initial paint done on all the boards. It looks pretty good. I like it. It is causing this to want to warp. So once it fully dries, I'll flip it and press it really hard. Then I took just a piece of thin cardstock, traced out one of the tiles. Then I come in 1/8 of an inch, so when you have two of them, it'll be about 1/4 of an inch, and that will leave like a path around each one of these. So I will cut this out and use that as a stencil for the terrain. I should have, or could have probably, set this down on top of a large sheet of the foam core, and then cut it out that way, and then cut it into the pieces I needed for the edges, and painted it before I mounted it. It would have done much better. And it is fitting a little tighter now that the paint is drying and it is wanting to curl up. But there we go. So I'm just using a pawn piece to represent pieces that are used in the 5 and 6 player game. So we'll slide this apart and do that. And oop, this goes down here. This one goes up here. Then we can slide this back together. And then just fill in with the rest of the 11 tiles. We'll pull this this apart while we put these in, and then slide it together. And there we go. It's looking pretty good. And I decided that now that's wanting to curl up some, but it works well. And I had decided that since I was doing this just kind of plain, I thought about whether I should draw or paint some images on, and if the red and green become too much of a colorblind hindrance, you could always draw like a tree or something and then draw a brick. I actually just did these by hand, and I think they turned out pretty well. I think everyone will be able to tell that's a sheep, and that's a light green color. The color on the card won't matter as much until you get to the cities and nights, where everything will match up easier that way. I went ahead and just lightly painted a little gray according to where the rule book originally had the possible ports located, but you can notice there's like more of them over here and there's a larger gap over here, so I've updated and just said space them 3 or 4 apart. Plus, when you slide this together, you'll have a little a little color not matching there. That's not a big deal. I'm not worried about that. Then here's my resources: stone, brick, wheat. Then I have wood and sheep, and I went ahead and painted them. Hopefully those are visibly different. The picture will help, but of course, you know, it won't help with the terrain tiles. But this is just to remind people that you get the wood from the dark green. Looking overhead, leaves green, etc. Sheep come from the green fields, and this will matter when we get to cities and nights. The commodities will have the same mark to show you where you get that particular commodity. That'll make it easier, especially for newer players. Then I just did the advancement cards like this, just real quick and easy, with gameplay rules right there on the card in much better text. The other ones were bigger cards. They had a nice little picture on it, but the writing was very tiny, minuscule, and it didn't tell you, you know, when you can play it and stuff like that. And so, yeah, I just changed that a little bit. So that's where I am at the moment, and got a few more things to get going for the cities and nights. On all of the cards that are considered 5 to 6 players, I have them marked, and my daughter had gotten me these a long time ago to use for game markers in games. Sometimes when you need to tell player colors, and we have these little cool little meeples, but it had a bunch of blank white dice, and so I will paint on that for this, and I will use those for something else in another game, and then I have an extra pawn that I can use. Well, making my game, I actually found out that I am missing a trade monopoly. So it's probably a good thing I went ahead and made duplicates of everything. And these are the pieces I have. Now I tried to make them all similar enough that you can tell what they are. So you have roads. These are the walls, which I prefer to call warehouses. And then, for instance, this one, they look like little castles. Some of them have like popsicle sticks that have been cut and sanded down, attached to different parts just to make them look a little unique. So the roof of this is rounded. These are rounded off so they're not as perfectly square, if you can see that. And then I have, this is light green, dark green, and a gray for the advancements. So that can go there until someone claims it, and there, and there. Now it does all fit in the box, but you wouldn't be able to have all the cards and everything. I would have to have this separate, or the pieces separate, or something. It's not quite big enough. Got an old shoebox I found. It's a good size. I've got just generic like water and then a red hex here. And we're talking about maybe putting a giant C and then Catan. But for now, this will do. There is the pieces that are specifically for the cities and knights and the 5 and 6 player tiles. So that means that we can put these in here, and that will kind of cover that up a little bit. Then we can start placing, I don't know, we can place a few tiles here, maybe 1 or 2 tiles there. I don't know the best way to do the tiles, honestly, to store those. Because you pull this out quickly, then you might spill some of those tiles anyway, and what would it matter? But this is the dice, metropolises, the market, the number tokens, port, stuff like that, port tiles. Let's put that in here. There we go. Okay. Basic resources, and the night improvement cards. And then we just have our 6 player pieces. Because even if you're playing with 4 players, you may want to play with one of the quote-unquote expansion colors. And there we go. That is it. I am done with this project. I am very, very happy with how it turned out. And happy to show that to you. I hope you enjoyed it. So thanks for watching. Stay safe, stay healthy. God bless.